Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale. Up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery with the purchase of any smart bed. Ends Monday. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Hello one, hello all. Welcome to another episode of this podcast. You know what time it is. We're talking punk, hardcore, indie rock, emo, metal, whatever subgenre or genre you pay attention to. That is hopefully what I cover, as long as it comes from small, sweaty rooms. Because after all, that whole DIY scene is what keeps that heart pumping, keeps us connected to music beyond just cool notes that are played in front of us, or like cool mosh parts, or sweet solos, or beautiful harmonies. All those things are great, but when you cut to the core of it, there's something that keeps us returning, and that is the irrevocable change that this music does to our DNA. You know it. I don't need to explain it to you, but today is a great conversation because I have Ryan Kirby from Fit for a King on the show. He's the vocalist of the band. They just released their 8th record, called Lonely God. It is out on Solid State Records, friend of the show. Really enjoy their output. And I'll be honest, Fit for a King. So I had Tuck, the bassist, on the show, many years ago, probably 6 some odd years ago. He reached out to me because he was a fan of the show. And then this came up where it's like, hey, would you like to have Ryan on? And I was like, well, like fully transparent, I don't care for the band. I don't think they're bad. I think they're good at what they do. It just doesn't flip my switches. And I know that I'm not their intended target audience. But then as I started to listen to them a little bit more and consider having Ryan on, I was like, you know what? I have a feeling he would be a great discussion. And it delivered. He exactly was that. Ryan was very open, honest, clear-eyed about who he is as a person, who he is as a musician and a creative human being, and it was great. He basically distills his life through like gaming and like just being able to optimize, take feedback. Like he's just a very interesting individual. So I had a thrilling time with Ryan, and I hope you stick around. Even like myself, if you don't care for the band, I assure you, you will become endeared to the band by hearing this discussion with Ryan. And if you're a fan, you're going to get some hopefully interesting nuggets that you haven't got before. The ways that you can support this show. First of all, you can reach out, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I receive all inquiries and questions and future guest ideas, whatever the case may be. Love to receive that feedback, and I appreciate those of you that send stuff through. I promise I do read all of them. I do my best to respond to all of them, but just like to have an open dialogue with you, the listener. Also, you can leave a rating and review on the Apple Podcast page, or if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can leave a simple rating. Do that. It takes 4 seconds. The rating and review on Spot or on Apple Podcast takes like 10 seconds. And also, if you are a consumer of podcasts on YouTube, we have a channel over there. I don't have full video, just got some static images, but I know people enjoy listening to podcasts on YouTube, or I should say watching. You get it. All of those ways are available for you. It's all also included at links in the show notes. Speaking of that, weekly recommendations, a segment of the show where I talk about a record that has come across my radar in the past week, or new, old, anything in between. I have a playlist linked in the show notes where you will be able to consume all of the recommendations I've been giving over the past 2 years, and hopefully you'll be able to find some new music or music that you haven't heard before. And because that's why we also care about this stuff. It's through friends recommending things. It's through all of the different ways. Like, I mean, algorithms, they're cool. They spit out like scientific, like you like, 3/4 notes or whatever. So I'm going to spit out this band that sounds similar. And while that is interesting, it's also, it misses a lot of context. And that's why I feel so passionate about recommendations and word of mouth. But anyways, all that to say, the weekly recommendation this week is the new Catharsis record, Hope Against Hope. The fact that Catharsis, after 26 years, decided to release a new record, it got me so dang stoked. Amidst a world of just unrelenting horrors, Catharsis just pull all of that into a record, and it is beautiful. I was so excited to listen to this. If you're a fan of like His Hero's Gone, all that sort of, crust adjacent, hardcore adjacent, Catharsis is beautiful. And for those of you that have never listened to Catharsis, this is also a great entry point for you. Because, the record is just punishing. It's got melody, but it also has everything that sort of crust, D-beat stuff that, like I said, His Hero's Gone, Death Threat, Tragedy, all of that stuff. If you like any of that, or even if you like just aggressive music, I can guarantee you will find something valuable out of Catharsis. And they said something in their Instagram post that really resonated with me as a grown-ass adult that has paid way too close attention to punk and hardcore for, a majority of my life. And I'm going to read it verbatim. For us, hardcore is not a style of dance music or a marketing strategy. Hardcore is still a secret society at war with the world, a way of living in struggle against everything around us that is petty and servile, a way of fighting to defend the beauty of the world, for all, against all. That just, if that's not a rallying cry, holy moly, like what are we even doing here? So anyways, you have to listen to the new Catharsis record, Hope Against Hope. It is spectacular. Anyways, let's talk to Ryan Kirby from Fit for a King right now. Something a person of a certain age like myself, a early 40s punk and hardcore kid that has watched the multiple evolutions of metalcore, broadly speaking. Something that I've noticed, and I'm sure that you and many of your peers have kind of felt as well, where it's like there used to not be longevity in bands. Like if you lasted more than 7 years, it was like, whoa, that's crazy. And I think many of you guys that kind of came up in that like early 2010s space have not only been able to like stay the course, but have obviously been able to like incrementally rise over time. I realize it's a big question to start off with, but what do you attribute your longevity to? Is it just the fact that, you've been able to replace members with people who are able to like tour and pursue that? Or is it just the creative mojo that you guys have?
I think starting off, it's like not being scared to part ways with people that weren't all in. I think a lot of bands tiptoe around stuff like that. Like if there's commitment issues, like nipping it in the bud, especially in your early career. And honestly, the commitment gets easier. I guess early on, there's like two sections. Early on in the career, in the early 2010s, late, I don't even know, you got 2000s.
Sure.
There was the scene was also just a lot smaller. Like there were bands that I thought were just absolutely gigantic in like 2006, 2007, like Under Oath and stuff, like selling out a 4,000 cap in Dallas, which is huge, still huge. But now there's like a lot of bands that do that. That's like, and it's still like a big deal to do that, but it's like I can name 10 or 15 now in this scene. But back then I couldn't name maybe 5. If like, that's if like I'm stretching it. It's like, well, it's their hometown or it's something like that. It was, because looking back, there were bands like Woe Is Me or Attack that when I was in high school, everyone who listened to scene music would talk about. And they were everywhere. CDs sold out at Hot Topic. And then they'd go play like 1,300 cap. And it seems like now that's like what our band's playing, and I don't feel like we're talked about to the same degree as some of those bands. And you see Sleep Token playing like Madison Square Garden and stuff. But I guess to round back, early on, there was just less money, less everything in the scene, even though it felt really big if you were in it in the hardcore metalcore scene. It wasn't big mainstream at all. Like, you have to think people our age, like mid 30s to mid 40s, were not remotely listening to anything heavy. Like, your parents and stuff, there's no chance they're listening to like Whitechapel and stuff like that. So I think the scene back then, you had to be super committed, but it also, you get to an age where you're like, all right, guys, I have to make money. Like, I can't just do this for like make 15 grand a year. I have a wife now, and I like actually need to get a house at some point and have a family. So I think a lot of people didn't see the like end game of having a career that was sustainable and substantial in that time frame. So bands didn't last as long. That's my theory, because there just was, you would be in the band for 8 or 9 years and you're still making like what a part-time worker at like the McDonald's would make, and you're just like, well, this isn't good. This was fine when I was like 18 or 19, but it's like now I'm 30. And I think it works for our band because we saw people that just couldn't, they didn't want to tour enough, or they had commitment issues. And especially because when there's not money involved, like commitment is harder to come by. And I think, as to answer the question, like as we sustain through time, as our band makes more money and the scene grows and it becomes like a real job, it's so much easier to get commitment from people because it's a real living.
Right.
So I think that's changed a lot, because now the top end is like, I see, like I said, Sleep Token selling out Madison Square Garden. I see like, I mean, our band can draw 3,000 people in certain cities, and we're not even in the top 25 biggest metal bands. But 14 years ago, that would make us one of the like top dogs in the music scene. So I think, the commitment thing has just evolved with like, as the scene becomes more, I don't even want to say profitable, it's just bigger. Because you have teenagers that are getting into metal now, and you have their parents that are standing right next to them that are just as into it as they are. And that wasn't a thing.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, to your point, the scene has obviously matured. It used to, only capture a very specific demographic. And now that this has had time to gestate, you're going to get more people involved in a broader spectrum. And hopefully, to your point, that ceiling then, raises to where it's like, oh, maybe this dumb yelling music is kind of a thing now. Like, it's, I guess we can do it.
And the commitment and people wanting to get into it is fueled by like, not only is it fun, but it can become a really good job if I do the right things and make the right decisions. Where in the past, it's like, top end doesn't look that great. Like, and there's only like 3 bands there, but now it's like most bands are like doing House of Blues or better tours. As far as like younger band, like I remember my early tours were like, even the ones I look back on that I were like, those were huge. I'm like, oh, it played 400 to 800 caps. Right. And now I see bands, like I'm managing a band, and their first tours are going to be like top end shows will be like 1,300 people. And I'm like, on your first tour? That's crazy. Like that took me like so long to see a crowd that large.
Sure. Right. Yeah. You're like, listen, if we could go to Chain Reaction in Southern California and sell that out, that is like,
that's where that Bury Your Dead DVD was. And I thought that was like the biggest looking, like, I was like, that is, but I could see why somebody who's like, because I was also 19, 20 when I saw that, but I could see someone who's 30 plus being like, that's really cool, but it was still the starving artist thing. Like, so even that's like what is considered near the like peak of coolness, and it was like, that guy's not making money, and they have to go work other, but like I said, when you're 30 to 40, that doesn't really fly. And it's not because you lost your passion for music, it's because at a certain point you'd like to have a family, or you'd like to
there's
do adult things.
There's different experiences in life, and you don't have to that and to your point too, that's like that notion, like, I know that many people, like the moment they observe a band on the stage, they're just like, oh yeah, they've obviously made it in some capacity. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, not at all. Like making
Yeah,
it,
especially back then, it was definitely like, no, that person's making less money than you by a lot. And the second you
absolutely.
have a girlfriend or a boyfriend that's like, wait, so you were gone 6 weeks and you made how much?
Yeah.
It's like, I'd prefer you stay home.
Totally. You're like,
Or,
you're absent and you're also not bringing home money. I mean, it's cool. You had great experiences, but like, is this building towards anything substantial? Yeah.
Yeah. And also, in America, healthcare, not really any healthcare in music. And as you get older, that becomes a lot bigger of a scene. It's just the boring adult things that get in the way of all the fun stuff. But that's life.
Yeah, it is very true, but it is a real thing that you obviously have to consider. And the fact that it's like when you are experiencing all of these things on, tour, being a part of like the music industry, and all you do is, like you said, like that, whatever, 5 to 8 year period. It's like, those are the crucial years where it's like, okay, I feel like we got some momentum, but like, is this really the way to go? We've put out our second record that maybe wasn't met as well as the first. Like
I'm still like have a roommate in my small apartment and I'm like pushing 30.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so I guess also I think to the point of all this stuff, I think it's why a lot of bands are coming back that broke up a while ago or went on hiatus, because they're like, oh, there's like money in the music scene now.
Right.
Where, because people are charging $45 for a shirt and people are buying it, which at the same time, everything's more expensive. So it's like the shirts also cost 3 times more to print, but it's still like people, it's like, oh, okay, like there's actually maybe a career here now. So maybe we should like fire it back up and see if it gains some traction. And sometimes it does.
Yeah, no, it totally does. It totally does. We'll pull apart some of those threads a little bit later, but not going to go beat by beat in regards to your, your own personal biography. But were you actually? I know you were born in Texas, correct? Like, what city did you come up in?
I was born in Monterey, California.
Oh, okay.
We moved at 3 years old, so I barely can claim that I'm like Californian.
Right.
We'd go back. I have a lot of family there, and we used to visit a lot more. But now I guess I tour around that area, so that counts as visiting.
Right. Yeah. You weren't. You had the Monterey Bay Aquarium experience when you were 2.5, but you can't.
Oh, I've been there a lot. Just even when we would go back to like, because my whole mom's side of the family was there. It's an amazing. I love that part of the country. Me and my wife are like, I wish we could afford a house there, but I think a lot of people wish that, and that's why they cost what they do.
I am so thrilled to welcome a new sponsor to this show, and that is Wicker Wood Works. What makes them awesome is they have beautiful pieces of furniture for your vinyl. Vinyl is the life's blood of everything within the independent music scene, and obviously just music in general. Vinyl has had such a resurgence. And many times you're running into the problem of like, dude, how do I store this stuff? Like, even if I have a small collection, what do I do with this? Where do I put it in? Do I just buy some random crate? No. That is where Wicker Wood Works comes in. It's handmade from solid wood in Portland, Oregon. It ships free and arrives fully assembled, and it's guaranteed for life. The company sources everything from local, family-owned businesses, and most of the wood they use is from the Pacific Northwest, where they are located. I love what this company does because, like I said, they make amazing pieces of furniture for vinyl. So you can put your record player there. It can be in your living room. It can be in your office. I have a piece of theirs in my office right now, and I love it so much. Literally everybody that comes over and listens to records at my house is like, what is that? Where'd you get that? Is that custom? And what makes it really, really cool is that this is independently owned and operated, Like, we're supporting small businesses here. Anyways, Wicker Wood Works. Go to wickerwoodworks.com and use the promo code that will get you 10% off orders of $500 or more. Here it is, 100 words that will give you 10% off of your orders over $500 or more. So go to wickerwoodworks.com, or you can follow them on Instagram and let them know that we sent you. go buy more vinyl and then furniture for it. Most people, I mean, especially in the band and touring world, like, don't really understand how big Texas is until they start to travel in it. Like, yes, of course, you can look at a map and understand that it's like, oh yes, like this is a big state. But then, when you travel between whatever, Austin and West Texas, and you're just like, I drove 8 hours and I'm still in the same state. Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's all the same. What was your experience like in regards to just kind of like, I guess, like soaking in Texas for what it was? Like, I know you identify as a Texan, I guess, or maybe you don't, but
I do.
Okay.
I do, definitely.
Well, don't mess with it, obviously.
No, don't. We mess with ourselves enough.
Yeah.
We take care of that for everyone else. What we're saying is we don't need other people to, like, please don't mess with us.
But actually,
yeah,
that's Ryan. That is like a legit, it's like, please, don't mess with Texas. Like, that's truly the new slogan. So
we're trying to figure our stuff out. Like, don't add any more problems.
Understood.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would you define your, I guess, Texas experience as a kid and as you started to, become cognizant of the world around you?
I was very lucky to, like, just grew up in a really diverse area. So, and the music scene was incredible. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there's just been so many good bands that came out of this area. There was no shortage of shows. I had a great time, and, like, I know a lot of people had rough public school experiences. I had a great one. There was so many people that were into music, and it was just like, honestly, my first show was at 14 years old because there was so many people wanting to do music, even at that age, that I was able to put a band together at 14 and, like, actually go play shows. And there were so many venues, so many hole in the wall places. I think it was just, I was very fortunate to grow up where I did, especially, and it definitely molded, like, obviously what I do now 20 years later from that first show. And I think there's just, even the scene now, I don't pay as close attention to it anymore because I'm a boomer, but it's still going, and I think it's starting to build back up. I'm hearing about people starting bands again because I have a son who's about to be in high school. So I can hear, like, our kids his age are starting to get into it, which for a long period, it was kind of dead. But that being said, my experience was great. I have no complaints. I think it's one of the best states to be in a band, is because, like you said, Texas is huge. We would have like a week and a half, 2-week tour and only play Texas. Even growing up, I would play like 4 shows in a week just in Dallas, Fort Worth, because you could go like up to here, then down to this part of Fort Worth, 1.5-hour drive, which if you're a local band, that's plenty of space between shows. So the fact that I could do like a Metroplex tour is like such a like luxury when there's people that are like in Montana trying to make it work, or even like, I'd say like Ohio still was the spot, and obviously like LA and all that for music in general. Ohio especially, I don't know what was going on in like the 2010s, but Ohio was going crazy. Dallas had a good share of stuff.
Yeah. And as you started to, bring this stuff home that your parents clearly had no context for, and was like, what is this aggressive music? Especially, and I imagine you lived in a faith-based home as well, where there was like, okay, we don't allow any of this aggressive stuff, or maybe they did, but long-winded way of me asking, how did your parents react to the weird screaming stuff that you were into?
I don't know if they understood anything I was doing, but they were always super supportive. So I'm very appreciative. It was a very conservative household. Like, I had a Thrice CD, Illusion of Safety, and they made me get rid of it because there were songs that talked about suicide. And what's funny is like 5-6 years later, they came out with Fahisu and Image of the Invisible, and my mom loved that song. And I was like, you made me throw their CD away like 5 years ago. But
look what you did, Mom.
I know. Like, I think honestly, I have to give some credit to Madden for easing my like dad into. I wouldn't say he enjoyed it, but easing him into what metal and screaming music was, because we played Madden constantly, and they had like Old Avenged Sevenfold in the playlist back when they were screaming a bunch. They had Atreyu, Brand New, Thrice. There was just Under Oath. There was so much heavy music in the playlist. So he was listening to it passively all the time. So I think that helped as far as like him knowing like, okay, there are bands that are on a video game that sound like this. And then I would do so many just like cringy things as like teenagers do. I would be in my bedroom. I had a bass amp that with a mic attached, and I would like karaoke to myself in the bedroom.
Hell
just
yes,
like
you
put
did.
on. Oh yeah, I'd put on like As I Lay Dying or like any of those, like even Story of the Year. But any of those bands, especially when I was first getting into it, and I would be like screaming into the, and I'm like, man, what my parents must have been thinking. And even one time on MySpace, I was probably 14 or 15. I would like recorded myself screaming onto the voicemail thing and asked people to call to give their opinion, so they could just all the worst things.
Wow, like you opened yourself up to criticism on the internet.
For some reason I've just always been super like I want feedback.
Right.
All the time. And even now I hate like people that beat around the bush on, if you don't like something, just say I don't like it, and if you can tell me why.
Right.
That's even better. But I hate when you can tell somebody doesn't like something and they're just not telling you. And I'm like, I can handle it. Just say you don't like it.
Right.
But I think that's helped a lot with Screams, because there were people that said mean stuff. There were people that said nice stuff. And instead of like stopping, I just tried to fix the things that people didn't like.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's very admirable because especially like at those ages, like at 15 to mid 20s or whatever, it's like so much of who you are is obviously attached by what you're into. And so when you're opening yourself up to criticism for something that like is your obvious identity as well, like that can go some pretty bad places pretty quickly where you're like, I'm never going to do this again.
Yeah. It's definitely like messed with. There's certain things where I like have too much, like I search for solutions to everything, even things that don't need solutions. Like if I have a piece of technology that's not working right, I'm like, all right, what do I need to replace it with so that this doesn't happen anymore? So that's annoying. That stuff's annoying. But I think it helped a lot with music, and it helped a lot with like constructive criticism, because I'd be like, okay, I would view everything as like a problem that needs to be solved. Like, okay, this song wasn't popular. Even as like a 16-year-old, it's like, so what do I need to do on the next one to like, and then I would notice in the crowd when we'd play, like, okay, they really liked that part. So I need to note that they really like those parts. And it is like just a lot of like inner dialogue stuff constantly. But I think it's definitely helped me like learn new vocals and stuff like that. But it's also ruined, like, I don't listen to a lot of music because I end up trying to like dissect what the vocalist is doing all the time when I'm listening to it. So it's hard for me to just enjoy it, or the mix, or it's hard to just hear it like I did when I was a kid.
Right.
And so it's more like as I got to my late teens and 20s, I would always just listen to music as like a thing to take notes from. Like, how is he doing that vocal style? Like, is it like, even to the point where another cringy thing I did probably at 15 or 16 was I messaged on MySpace As I Lay Dying, asking them how loud their screamer screamed when he did vocals. They never replied. I told them that when we toured with them in Europe in 2019.
You're like,
just like, just so you know, I figured it out. No thanks to you.
Yeah, just so you know, I was looking for the dB level and you didn't give it to me.
Yeah. So I definitely try to reply on Instagram and stuff to any like person asking vocal advice, because I remember what it was like to be that kid who was just trying to find answers about stuff.
In hearing the way you're describing that, and like the breakdowns of how you'd look at things, whether it's technology or obviously music, and it's like an element, and I know you're into video games as well. It's like kind of gamifying it in a way where, where do you think, like, has that always been you? Like, have you basically taken like, this is how I need to handle school and history, or is it only sort of applied in different circumstances?
What's funny with the school thing is I didn't do great in school, but it was almost calculated. at times. Because like you said, it was almost like a game. I would actually like do the math like, okay, if I don't do this project, my max grade is this. And then I would decide if I'm okay with the 78 versus the 87 and stuff. So literally was trying to make it a game like least amount of work with the outcome I'm okay with.
Right.
And then, which isn't the most like hardworking way to, I was working hard to not work hard.
Yeah. You were putting thought. Yeah. You were putting, I mean, truthfully, that is, I think when you are a kid and you have like, truthfully, the only autonomy you have is like making those decisions, because it's not like any other aspect of your life you can make a lot of decisions besides, you know, playing in bands or whatever. But yeah, if you're like, yeah, I'm good with the C, it's like, what are you going to do, mom, dad?
And I won't get grounded. Like I knew what would get me grounded. And I'm like, all right, what do I need to do? I know I got to graduate. So obviously you have to do this.
Right.
And I think that's carried over with not just music, but how we run our business. Like I do our finances. I do all that, handle the payroll stuff with our crew and the bandmates and do all that. Cause it is like a challenge. Cause it's also been said, I think with the band too, it's always been viewed like, you can't make a living doing music. And you would hear that, well, not as much now. You don't hear it as much. But especially back in like the early 2010s and late 2000s, you had other bands explaining how you can't make a living, like don't waste your time. There was articles like from different musicians telling people, and I viewed that as a challenge and was like, I'm going to make it work. And I like telling people like, yeah, we make a comfortable living playing music, because I want people to feel motivated to go make music and not feel like it's a dead end. But that goes to the more of the video game thing. And all the video games I grew up mainly playing were like sports games and strategy games and stuff like that. So maybe that fueled it all subconsciously.
I was going to say, this sounds like hardwired into your DNA. You're just like looking at all of these situations and trying to figure out an optimization strategy for all of them.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. When, and like you said, when you were, 14, you started playing your first band. Was that the Bodies Awake band?
Oh, no, that was 5 years later.
Okay.
What was weird is I had like 12 different bands from 14 to 19, which is, or 8. I was like in Bodies Awake at 18, 19 years old.
Okay.
But yeah, I had no band lasted more than like 6 months, because I would find people I liked, realize maybe one or two were either lazy or didn't care, even at 14 or 15. And then I would go play a local show and like really like click with another member of another band and then want to jam with them. And it would be like hopping around until I found the right person. And then I guess that right person was Bob, whenever I met him in Bodies Awake. And then we've just been writing music ever since.
Right. Attached to the hip. Yeah. Well, it sounds like at that time too, you were also optimizing band members. So I think there's a theme here, Ryan.
Yeah. Cause we'd always butt heads on like, cause I would want to practice a lot or want to do that. Or I would see somebody not able to play their parts and it would bother me that they didn't care that they couldn't play their parts. And that's another thing. I think going back to how do you find the right band? It's just, you need people on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The hardest part about playing in a band is not breaking up. Like, as stupid as that sounds.
I remember one of the, like, it's not, I guess not a dumb argument, but one of the arguments I had with a bandmate when I was like 17 was they didn't want to pitch in to record because, and not even an EP, like we were just trying to scrounge together $50-$60 each to go record a song or two. And he's like, can't afford it. Like I didn't, all that stuff. And then he bought Halo 2. And then I was crazy because that's $50-$60.
Yeah. You're like, I see where your priorities lie.
That off for 2 weeks. And then,
Master
just
Chief
little things like that.
Yeah. Master Chief will still be there. But the recording.
And I'm someone who loves video games. I play, but I was just like, well, I want to record the song more than I want to right now versus get the game right now.
You know what time it is. It is evilgreed.net time. And that is because I love what they do. First of all, here's a promo code that gets you 10% off of your first time order. Suburbs, 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 because we talk a lot about suburbs and the suburban upbringing within the show. But evilgreed.net, they are an amazing consolidated place where you can buy all your heavy music, merchandise, and records. They have exclusive colors of vinyl, and I don't care what style of music that you are into, as long as it's the cool, heavy stuff. If you're into Chelsea Wolfe, Knock Loose, Speed, I can guarantee you that you will find something to purchase there. They're based in Berlin, Germany, ship worldwide, and the shipping rates to us are very cheap right now. So dig into it, maybe talk to a friend or two and be like, hey, let's go in on an order together. And then all of a sudden you have like Christmas comes in the summertime or whatever. I love Evil Greed. They're so cool, independently owned and operated. A bunch of punk and hardcore kids work there. This is the place to support. Don't just, buy random stuff on, random websites. Go to evilgreed.net. You will get everything that you possibly need. And exclusive colors of vinyl. You know how much I love vinyl. And you know how much I love exclusive colors. Evilgreed.net. Use the promo code SUBURBS for 10% off your first time order. Do it now.
In the time it takes you to actually board a flight from Group 8,
Now boarding Premier Altitude Elite Club members.
you could have bought a Hyundai on Amazon. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Limited availability, pickup through participating Hyundai dealer in select markets.
What would you say was your, early inflection point for, getting into independent music? Like you said, it was kind of existing all around you, and clearly there was MySpace and the internet to access. But, who was kind of ushering you along, or was it the internet that was, very helpful in you, finding the top eights?
I think as far as like showing me music, it was just like I found Madden, then I would listen to it at school, and then my friends would do their thing and be like, hey, but have you heard of this? Or have you heard of that? And then it would just go down the rabbit hole. I remember also seeing Faint on like MTV and from Linkin Park, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Sure.
Then when I was a freshman, my best friend's brother, who was a senior, was in a local band, and I noticed he was playing at a church. I saw a bulletin on MySpace that his band was playing like literally 5 minutes down the road, and it was $5 to go. I'd never been to a show before, and since it was at a church and it was literally right down the street, my parents were fine with me going, even at like 14. And I went and watched them play, and I was like in awe. I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I even remember what I was wearing. I was wearing this like Hot Topic As I Lay Dying shirt that was like a youth large, way too small.
As one does.
White belt.
Of course, as one does, yeah. If you weren't wearing a white belt, I was questioning your choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I want to play music so bad. That looks so fun. And then it kind of just went from there. And I probably just like punished his older brother, asking him questions. I thought he was like the coolest person I'd ever met in my life.
Of course.
Because he was the vocalist in the band, and he could play drums, and he had all these Thrice posters in his room, and the Bled, and like all that stuff. And I was just like, this guy is like so sick.
Of course. You're like, this is huge. Like this is, this is the skeleton key for unlocking everything, the world that I want to see.
And I was never like close to his brother or anything. I was just like best friends with his younger brother, and we love sports, and we bonded over sports. But I would just see his brother in his room, like jamming and all that. And to me, that was always just like passively like motivating me to start playing music. Sure.
Something around that time that I'm curious about your experience as well is the, even though at that time that, early 2010s, mid 2010s or whatever, the idea of heavy music and Christianity was like, it was becoming more acceptable, but it was still...
Yeah.
Kind of a third rail for many parents, and, especially whatever. I mean, yeah, a youth pastor could be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, here's MXPX or whatever. Was your experience kind of, hitting both those worlds of the faith-based stuff with, the, hardcore metalcore world? Like, did you feel that they were able to intertwine appropriately at that time, or was it pretty separate?
I mean, I definitely thought I found Solid State Records and Face Down Records and Strike First and all that around the same time. So I definitely, because like I said, my parents were pretty strict with what I was listening to. It was great to like, I would go to Mardell's or like Lifeway Christian and be able to go buy like an Impending Doom record and stuff like that. So it was really cool because they would just be like, I would get money from mowing or whatever that week, and they would be cool with like me going to Mardell's and pick out a CD and stuff. Which CDs back then were like $18
I was gonna
or something.
I was literally just gonna make a joke because I remember. I mean, yeah, the Christian
They were not
bookstores,
cheap.
they gouged kids where it's like, dude, here's a
Yeah.
$23, training for
Which
Utopia.
back then that's like
Yeah.
35 today, or that's like 40.
Yeah. They had the Christian markup.
They did. And it was cool because, and I think that was the case for a lot of people too, because it was like your parents can't argue with you getting it because it's literally from the Christian bookstore. So
Yep.
it was like anything goes that's on the shelf there. And I know they're not going to like get upset or like really. And I was the firstborn. So I'm the oldest. So they were the most strict. They did not care at all what my younger brothers did. Like they got all the like strictness out with me.
Sure. You're like, how come they're buying Deftones and I couldn't do that?
Yeah, they're just like, well, we realize that you'll be okay regardless.
Right. We realize realize Ryan's not a devil worshiper. It's totally cool.
Yeah, it's like, because by the time you're 17, 18, you're listening to like Suicide Silence, Whitechapel, all that. And you were fine.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I always tell people, because I met a lot of Christian kids, especially being like in a Christian, like on a Christian label. And we did claim to be a Christian band back then.
Yep.
I got a lot of kids asking questions about like secular music or whatever. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It depends on who you are as a person. If the music gets to you on such a deep level that it can like alter your thinking and how you behave, then sure, be more cautious with and you should just be cautious in general with what media you consume if you become that influenced by what you're listening to. I was like, but for 99% of people, you just enjoy the music for what it is. It's not like altering your chemistry of like who you are as a human being. It can in like positive ways, but I've never seen somebody turn evil from me. I've only seen good results from music throughout my life. Like, I don't see people like take a turn, like be a good person, and then all of a sudden they're just like the worst human being on earth because of a band they found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a very important distinction that, I mean, fortunately, we're living in a world where that's more prevalent now as opposed to, Tipper Gore's America of like, oh, anything that's, as a parental advisory, it's obviously the worst thing you've ever heard in your life. So,
yeah. The parental advisory stickers look cool, though. It makes the album art look cooler.
If they could not have reverse engineered a more appealing thing for kids to look at and be like, oh, yeah, I need that.
Edgy.
Totally.
I remember it was like under the tape. I would buy CD. I bought a Stained CD from like my friend at school because I knew my parents wouldn't let me have it, and it had the parental advisory thing on it, and I was like under the table.
Of course, black market Stained CDs. This is beautiful. Yeah. And so what attracted you to the, I guess, the vocal aspect of it? Because, I mean, you obviously saw the drum aspect of your friend's older brother.
Well, he is the vocalist of his band. He just also drummed.
Right. So like,
when I saw the show, he was the screamer of the band.
Oh, okay. He didn't do both.
I think that's really, okay. No, he didn't do both, but he drummed when he was at home, and he drummed in like other bands.
Got it.
Yeah.
Did you try?
I'm glad I got into vocals. The others are too expensive.
They are. That's as I say. Did you try any other instrumentation, or was like, no, vocals was the thing?
No, I never even considered other things really. I don't know why. I don't know why maybe it's just seeing him play, and I was like, that looks more fun than the other things.
Sure.
And I always like to write it. Like, you get to write and you get to put your like meaning to songs and stuff like that is always a cool idea.
Yeah. How did you, as you started to play in bands, I mean, of course, in the early iterations of everything you were doing, like, you were playing a show here and there. And so I'll kind of gear it towards the, body's awake experience of you actually playing some shows. Like, did you have the, fear of getting on stage and like understanding how to kind of be as a human on stage, or did that come relatively naturally?
Definitely not naturally. I was super awkward. And I think it was not as bad as it was at first. When I was 14, my dad was at the Battle of the Bands, which was the first show I played, and at the Door in Fort Worth. And I like did not give eye contact to the crowd at all. I like had my back turned. I was super awkward. it even continued like through up into Fit for a King when Descendants was out. Our manager back then, who's still our manager today, he like had a talk with me about like I need to have more confidence, and he's like, your band's not going to make the next step until you can like be more confident. And him saying that really meant a lot, and it made me focus. And that goes back to the I just want people to be straightforward. Just say the band's not going to be successful if you're not more confident. And that's what he said. And I'm like, that's all I need to hear.
Yeah.
Like, just give, because to me, I was doing fine.
Right.
But
in your own
he
head.
has a better perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And truthfully, I think that, I mean, everybody talks about the idea of constructive criticism, and clearly not everybody is able to handle that constructive criticism, or alternatively, like if a person were to express directly to you, like, I don't like your band, but I like your vocals or whatever. And like, you can take that feedback and be like, okay, got it. And not be like, oh,
Yeah.
you don't find me a worthwhile human being?
I mean, even like on Dark Skies, which was a record that did awesome for us, there was a girl reacting to our song Tower of Pain. And she said something, she's like, I love this band, but there's just this like throatiness in his vocals that I always like find hard to listen to. And then I went into the next records and like worked super hard to get that tone out of my voice. Even though it's like, because I want people to say specifically what they don't like. And that's like a valid criticism, like, because I've known there was like a tone in my voice. I just didn't know other people noticed it. So when I heard one person notice it, I was like, okay, I actually do need to work on that. Yeah, I was like,
You're like,
sometimes I try to not hyper do it, where, because I'm not as big on mixed stuff and all that, because I think there's a million things like that we could nitpick, but fans aren't going to notice at the end of the day. Right. But as soon as a fan does notice, it's like, okay, maybe it isn't something I can brush off.
Right. You're like, note accepted and challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. The touring aspect, like once you started to experience, life on the road, and like you said, for the first many years, you're obviously just, doing the DIY stuff and, playing wherever to whomever. Did you take to tour as far as the aspect of being on the road relatively easily, or was that something you had to become adjusted to as well?
I think I was really good at touring, roughly. I think the whole band, the lineup we had, was because of all the, weeding out members or moving through members. I think like we did Warped Tour in a van 3 times. We did, I just never had like a high like expectation. I feel bad. It sounds bad. Like I didn't expect nice things on tour.
Sure.
I was like, if I saw a couch, that was incredible. Or a 1-star hotel is like, we have a hotel. This is awesome. And I always had things in my mind. Maybe it's the video game thing where I was like, we have to hit X amount of dollars before we could, and guarantee before we can do this. So I had a number of like, has to be X amount of dollars before we can take a Sprinter or a bandwagon or what. So on Warped, we weren't getting the number. And I was like, so we're in a van. That's just what it is. And it almost helped me just accept it, because I knew there was a number in my head, and I'm like, we just have to get there, and then we can do this up until we get to a tour bus.
Right.
And even now I still have numbers where like, it has to be this number before we can do a crew bus, or it has to be this number before. So I think it always helped me. I think touring is harder now because of family and stuff like that, makes it a lot more difficult. And you enjoy being home more, especially like when you buy a house and you like have things at home that you enjoy. Back then, I was like, especially when I was 19, 20, I wasn't like in a committed relationship, or like, it was easy to be gone. Like it was
like, keep it going. Let's go on tour again.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, I have a room. I live at a guy's house in a spare bedroom. Like, I don't need to be home. And I was like having to work flooring and stuff when I was home. So tour was a million times better than now. It's like being home is just as great, if not better sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it makes it harder, even like when you do make money doing it and stuff. It's like, but now I like being home and enjoying what I've worked for, where back then it was like it was like a getaway from reality of like, you're a guy living in a guy's bedroom doing flooring.
I can't tell you how many times I'm visiting rockabilia.com right now because my son is obsessed with band merch, and that makes me incredibly happy, but I also need to save money. And that is where Rockabilia wants to serve you. Use the promo code 100 words or less to get 10% off of your first order. And I don't care what you're into, hardcore, punk, metal, mainstream rock, hip hop, they all have it there, and it's all officially licensed. That means the bands get paid. Everybody wins in this awesome scenario. So go to that website, use the promo code 100 words or less, and get 10% off of your first order. They ship from the Midwest here in the United States. It gets you lickety split. Customer service is top notch. They have over 500,000 items. They have skate decks. They have limited edition collaborations. I love what they do, and you should follow along with what they have going on social media, or just simply go to rockabilia.com and order to your heart's content. Buy more merch. We all need it. The consideration of when bands obviously start to make a living off of the art that they create, and then clearly there's also another impact of the way that your band has existed in regards to, your faith. And like you said, the earlier years of being like, yes, we're a Christian metalcore band. So as all of those factors start to hit, that's when it's like the art implications start being like, well, like, okay, we can't, if we do this and then we make less money, but then like we're also maybe adjusting the way that we're expressing our faith or whatever. There are all of those different factors. The reason I'm asking that is because usually bands just have two factors. They're like the art and then the commerce. But then you guys obviously had an additional layer on that. So a big question, but how were you, and honestly, how do you still kind of navigate those things to where you're still obviously being true to your artistic expression, but there's more at stake now because you're literally a small business?
It definitely puts, before there was like money that really mattered involved. Like it was just kind of like going through the motions. Like I grew up in church, and it was pretty easy. It's like, don't cuss, don't say anything offensive, like easy, or offensive to Christians. They might find something offensive that's not actually offensive. I think as we get older, also, the reason we don't say we're a Christian band isn't because I'm not a Christian or that members aren't Christians. I just hate the label Christian because it's been like commandeered by a lot of really bad people. And I don't like sharing a label with some of the...
Of course.
And so it's like the religion itself has been hijacked by some very bad actors, not like every single church or every single person. But it's like there are people that claim to be Christian that are just some of the worst human beings. And it's such a broad scope now. There's denominations, there's people that believe this, there's parts of the church that say no woman should ever even work. Yep. There's parts of the church that say just awful things. And it's like, well, I don't want to be under the umbrella of who knows what, because then people can make any assumption about us and say, well, I met this Christian that believes this, so they must also believe that because they say they're Christian.
Sure.
So it's more of like a relationship thing, and not every member in the band is Christian. So it's like, it feels very disingenuous to, even if I'm Christian, to say like, we are a Christian band. It's like, but we're not.
Right.
We're Christian individuals. So now I just don't care really about, like, I have what I believe in. It makes its way organically into the lyrics sometimes because it's me writing it, and my thoughts and ideas are going to go into the music, and that's it. And I don't really, I mean, I've pretty much pushed away most Christians that would care by this point by like going up and doing that Motionless in White guest spot, or having Chris even on our song, or 5 years ago when I said I don't think hell exists. I think all the Christians that would disapprove of anything have already disapproved and moved on a long time ago.
Right. Yeah, if you haven't waved the white flag yet, then I mean,
Yeah.
what else do I need to do to indicate
And when
that?
people got upset about me saying that, I'm like, why does it matter what I think? That's
Sure.
my interpretation. I'm not a pastor. I'm a metalcore musician. I'm not preaching about this idea on stage. We can have a disagreement or we can have a healthy debate, but at the end of the day, we're debating over something we both don't even know is a fact or not.
Yeah, absolutely. There obviously also has been a, as bands evolve, like clearly you could just continue to put out the same type of record over and over. And many bands in that era that you guys came up with clearly had to start, evolving and be like, oh yes, like here's more, rock elements. And, it's like what every scene goes through. When you guys started to, encounter the idea of bringing all these influences that you guys most likely were obviously listening to outside of the context of your own band, I know it wasn't a difficult decision because you clearly did it, and there's still elements of obviously Fit for a King, the origins of it that are still exist. But, how did you guys have that internal dialogue of like, okay, this has to be the transition record versus like, our full butt rock record or whatever?
Yeah. I think it's just we always talk about how we need to like evolve and find a way for Fit for a King to like follow trends, but stay Fit for a King, because I know people like to romanticize like early records of all their favorite bands, but the truth is a lot of those early records, if they were put out today, would not have been as successful. And there's some records that weren't successful 15 years ago that would be super successful today. It's just because it's a time and a place. And I think everything, it's just hard. You can't just say this record is blanket good in all eras or in all years. So we knew for our band to survive, we have to like keep adapting to what is going. And, sometimes we miss and sometimes we hit it, but we have to try, because a lot of the bands that just keep doing the same things just start gradually shrinking. Even if they don't take chances or take risks, it's just people start getting bored. And it's like the worst thing people can do is just forget your band exists. The worst thing you can hear is like, oh, I forgot that band was playing shows. Like, I forgot.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, you don't even hate us. You just forgot that we
You're just indifferent,
exist.
Right? Yeah. No, it's true. And I mean, truthfully, it's one of those things where a band that's inspiring, like when you are putting out a record that, quote unquote sucks from the fan base, you like from where you sit, you're like, okay, like note taken, that was a little too far, or that was a little too much of this. And all it does is inform what you can do moving forward. And it's not to say that like you can't continue to lean into that side, because you're just like, well, we're not going to listen to our fan base. We're going to do what we want to do. But the way that you guys approach it is very, open and calculated, but not in like a, evil genius sort of way.
Yeah. No, it's, we always take into account what we want, but we want as our fans to enjoy our music too. Because at the end of the day, like playing a show is not very fun if the crowd doesn't care. So I know people say don't write music for other people. I'm like, well, to a degree you have to,
right?
Because I like good, energetic live shows, and if you have a room full of people, if you're the only person in the room that likes it, you should just write music at home. But we're bringing it on tour, and we're trying to have a good time, and we want to have great shows. So yes, you do need to write stuff people enjoy, so that they'll interact with the live show.
Right. When people started to pay attention to you as an individual, as far as just like that, idea of being on stage and the sort of, idol worship that exists, even though like, when you're starting, it's just like, oh, there's 100 people at the show and like 3 people talk to me. I'm so excited or whatever. How did you navigate that attention, and then also obviously be able to like literally protect yourself as well, to be like, I can't be as available as I, maybe want to be because there's so much input. How do you navigate that?
Just in the early years, I was at the table nonstop, trying to meet as many people as I possibly could, just because I wanted to put a face to the band for a lot of people. And I knew that if people had like a conversation with me, no matter how short, that's like a memory versus just seeing us on stage. But obviously, like you said, as we get larger, it's not feasible for me to go to the merch table because it ends up hurting sales, because then the table just becomes clogged with people trying to like take a picture and not buying anything, which is not just about money, but at the same time, we do have to pay for the bills, like the production, and our crew makes money. I don't think they want to do it for free. And our merch guy who makes tips having the table blocked because there's a lot of people isn't the great. And back in the day when it would be like 10 of the 100 people, it would actually help sell merch, because it's like those people just wouldn't have come to the table in general.
Right.
But because they saw, the vocalist of that opening band's there, let me go check out a shirt. And I was the one selling the merch some nights, so it would be different. And then navigating it now, luckily fans are pretty understanding. It's too hard, especially playing for an hour, sometimes longer, and singing and screaming I need to rest my voice at some point. I can't sit at the table and yell over the music for an hour.
Right.
I wish I could, but that's why VIPs exist, not just to for ego or to pay ourselves. It helps us make the production bigger, and it gives a person a chance to speak without music blaring, and to just have a moment to talk. And I wish I could go to the table and talk to everyone, but unfortunately it's just not as realistic whenever there's a lot of people that want to talk.
Right. When you started, not started, but as the band started to, continue to put out records and obviously get these different opportunities and things that most likely were obviously never part of any sort of dream scenario. What were some of those moments? It doesn't have to be towards the beginning. It can literally be, touring with Killswitch Engage earlier in the year or whatever. What are some things that stand out to you personally of being wow, this is bigger than I thought it was going to be, or this just being able to be in this scenario really validates whatever work I put into it?
I think the 2018 August Burns Red tour that we were direct on, which we owe a lot to August Burns Red. They took us out a lot early in our career. 2018, that was the first support tour since Dark Skies came out, and it was just a gigantic difference in crowd participation and merch sales. It truly felt like that was the first huge level up for our band as far as support opportunities go. Unfortunately, the world shut down 2 years after that. We had to take a 2-year break.
Sure.
But we went back at it.
Yeah. And the speaking of August Burns Red, I do enjoy the fact that you do have the sort of creative bones in your guys' collective body to do these collaborations, and whether it's obviously the guest spots that either you do on other bands' records or vice versa. Because truthfully, that's not it used to be very common for bands to do splits, and they would cover each other's songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's far less common now. What inspires you guys to do that? Is it just simply because we've been bros with these guys forever, so can we do something together?
It was driven by friendship, and it was driven by both bands needing to sell merch, because it was during the pandemic.
Sure.
So we were which friends want to go in on something together, and hopefully we can spark excitement on people's limited resources. Because it sucks, because you're well, we need to make money. And also nobody else is making money. But some people still were working, and at that time we had lost. I think my tax return the year after, my income was 90% lower the first year of the pandemic without touring. So it's literally cut the band business made 90% less revenue during the pandemic. So it was everybody, and I assume other bands were in a similar boat. So it's we were all just
what can we
grouping
do?
up as friends. How can we get people to also just stay relevant through 2 years of that? Because touring is how a lot of bands stay relevant.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so you're like, how do we stay on the top of people's minds, even especially during a time where there's a million things happening that aren't music related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of two last things I want to hit on was the like we talked about before, big gamer. Has that been pretty consistent throughout your life in regards to either maybe the type of games that you play, or has there been fallow years where you're just like, no, I'm really not much of a gamer during this time?
I think the only games I'm like consistent are like MLB The Show and Madden.
Okay.
I have enjoyed story games. It has to be something really, really like that piques my interest. Like I just played Expedition 33 and I thought that was like one of the best stories ever, regardless if it was a movie or a show. I played Star Wars Outlaws. I thought it was decent, pretty good, but I also enjoy Star Wars. So that was more fueled by like, because I heard it was canon in the story. So I was like, well, I need to play the game because I want. Same with Jedi Survivor. Like I enjoy the games, but it's part of like a larger universe. And it's so I think with that, I do love horror games.
Okay.
I love the Resident Evil games. I like even the smaller indie horrors like Outlast. I guess I played League of Legends for like 10 years, which is like a very competitive game. I gave that up. Is bad for my mental health. As anybody that's played it will agree.
Sure. Was there ever any thought process of being like, well, yes, I can obviously try to be a professional, Twitch streamer / gamer? Was that ever kind of during the pandemic? I may
definitely not the professional gamer.
Yeah.
I've never been good enough for that.
Okay.
I definitely went hard on the streaming for like 6 months during the pandemic. That's literally the only way I was able to pay bills was streaming. So it was kind of the down to necessity, really motivated. But I realized after that, I'm like, this isn't for me. Like, I liken music where you write an album and you tour on it for 2-3 years. And that music just always exists. People always want to see it. With streams, you have to find a way to entertain people every stream with a new thing. Or you're redoing the same thing. But I just found like even... doing the typical music reaction thing, which is the most profitable Twitch thing. It's like, man, you don't get excited to log on because I would notice the streams where I'd play a game, it wouldn't do as well. And during that time, I was like, this is how I'm paying bills. Like I have to.
Right.
But I think I stream time to time and the community I built during that period is still very loyal, which is cool. I just don't think they have the expectation that I stream all the time, which is nice.
Right.
So now I do it occasionally, especially like when a song comes out or whatever. I like to stream and watch the premiere with the community and they give feedback and stuff. So it's cool. I think I just love feedback. That's what it all comes down to.
It sounds like that. And truthfully, that's it's not really common. Like you're weird. And I mean that in a good way, because
I want people
right. And I think that's a good way, especially where it's like it's very easy to look at. I mean, even though Fit for a King has obviously done a lot of great things, it's easy to just be like, oh yeah, here's like a generic metalcore band. Like, oh, this is what makes it special or whatever. And it's but then alternatively, it's easy for you to be like, oh, well, you may think we are generic, but like, here's where we have worked on ourselves to make us less generic or whatever. You're like, I've heard the feedback and I'm moving forward with this. Yeah.
And I think I forgot what I was even going to say. I like, yeah. That's my age.
It's okay. The last thing I want to hit on was like you mentioned, dad life, existing with a teenager and obviously watching his music tastes expand. How do you think your, experience being, an unconventional job haver that most of his other classmates obviously are just like, oh, your dad sings for that band? That's weird.
Yeah.
How do you think that influences your, I guess, parenting? Do you feel like it makes it, I guess, easier for you to relate to your kid, or what aspects are you noticing that it's influenced your parenting?
I do think there's like less friction because there's like the cool factor. I think it does help. It doesn't always. Sometimes it gets, when you're grounding for a grade, I don't think they care what you do for a living.
Yep.
But I think on daily life that it's like something that's just cool. And, an underrated part of touring is like, I'm not remote. I would not say I'm athletic at all, but like I play shows and I'm like,
You're
be
fit.
active. So I can go play basketball with them in the backyard. And you see a lot of dads like around school his age that I feel like would just twist their ankle. It's just, and it's just because I've never had a desk job, which is definitely the like largest contributor to that. So it's hard.
Yes.
So I know it's hard. And I think that has helped because I like can go play basketball with him and his friends, or I can do all this stuff and not be great and amazing, but like just hang.
Right.
Yeah, I can hang. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think touring has done a lot to like, I'm just active most of the year and I'm on my feet.
Right. Well, and truthfully, you also had him at a relatively younger age. So you're not, in your mid 50s trying to,
he was adopted, but I guess 6 years ago.
Okay. Well, that definitely, that's a different.
Which I am an age still where there are parents, because I would have been like 22 or something, which 100% a lot of people born with parents that age.
Right.
Yeah.
But
still on the younger end.
Totally. And I think that's what, you're not, I just, anytime you hear these stories of, celebrity, like just, and no shots against Jeff Goldblum, but it's just like, dude's in his 70s and he has like a 7-year-old. And I'm just like, that sounds insane, dude. But
he's not going to have a dad by 15, 20. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But so you don't have to worry about that. You could still ball, and that's great.
No, hopefully not. Yeah. I haven't torn ACL yet.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
He'd probably just laugh.
He probably would. Or you can obviously pull a Zach De La Roca from Rage where you can just obviously sit on the stage. You'll be just fine.
Exactly. Gives me an excuse to relax.
Thank you very much to Ryan for hanging out with us, and a huge shout out to Shane, his publicist, for just being a great dude and taking me good ideas. So always appreciate the work that is done behind the scenes to make things run. Next week is another great conversation, of course, because that's what we do here. I have Geert Vandeveld, who is the vocalist for Shai Hulud. And I know the joke is who hasn't sang for Shai Hulud, but Geert is, in my mind, besides Chad Gilbert from Newfound Glory, who sang for Shai Hulud, if you were not familiar, Geert is the vocalist for Shai Hulud. Like, he was in the most formative time of Shai Hulud as far as my own personal enjoyment. The split with Another Victim, that just like the song Set Your Body Ablaze, that just really solidified my love for Shai Hulud. And Geert has rejoined the band, and they're playing shows, they're doing new music, all this other stuff. Well, new music is maybe they're trying. We'll see what comes together. But the band is a force to be reckoned with, and they are legendary within the context of melodic hardcore and what it is that they have given to the scene. So anyways, I have Geert because I wanted to know what brought him back and why he still cares about all this stuff. So great conversation, and that's what's happening next week. Until then, please be safe, everybody.